The world you were born into worships struggle, praises exhaustion. It glorifies burnout. Tells you that if you're not constantly pushing, fighting, and forcing your way forward, you're falling behind. From the moment you wake up, you're surrounded by noise telling you to do more, want more, become more, faster. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to believe that peace is something you earn after success. That rest is allowed only once you've suffered enough. But the ancient Stoics saw through this illusion. They understood something that modern culture still refuses to accept. A frantic mind cannot build a meaningful life. And what if the very tension you're carrying, the pressure, the anxiety, the constant need for control, is the reason things feel stuck? What if the path forward isn't found in force, but in alignment? Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, ruler of millions, wrote private notes to himself that were never meant to inspire the world. And yet they survived centuries because of one quiet truth he understood. Confine yourself to the present. Not because the future doesn't matter, but because the future is shaped only by what you do now, and how you do it. The Stoics were not weak. They were not passive. They were not dreamers waiting for luck. They were disciplined minds in chaotic times. They knew how to move through life without being consumed by it. Think about water. Water does not argue with reality. It does not exhaust itself trying to dominate obstacles. It adapts, flows, persists, and over time it reshapes mountains. This is the power the Stoics cultivated, calm strength. Because when you live in constant tension, you narrow your perception. You miss chances. You rush decisions. You react instead of responding. And the more desperately you cling to outcomes, the more rigid you become. A rigid mind breaks. A flexible mind endures. This is where most people misunderstand Stoicism. It is not about giving up desire. It is about freeing desire from desperation. Because desperation clouds judgment. And clarity creates momentum. When you release the frantic grip, not on effort but on control, something shifts. You begin to act without panic. You begin to choose without fear. You begin to move without burning yourself alive. That is when life starts responding. Not magically, not instantly, but consistently. What follows are 10 Stoic principles. Not motivational slogans, not spiritual fantasies, but mental disciplines forged in hardship, war, loss, and power. If you listen closely, they don't promise you comfort. They offer you command over yourself. You've been taught that wanting something badly is proof of commitment. The Stoics disagreed. They saw that excessive wanting weakens the soul. Epictetus, once a slave, later one of history's sharpest minds, said that wealth is not measured by what you possess, but by how little you depend on externals for peace. This is not about shrinking your ambitions. It's about removing emotional dependence from outcomes. When you need something to happen, you hand your stability to chance. When you prefer something to happen, but remain grounded without it, you gain leverage. This is why calm people often seem lucky. They aren't luckier. They're clearer. They don't rush into bad decisions out of fear. They don't chase what isn't aligned. They don't confuse urgency with importance. They act, but they are not possessed by desire. This internal independence makes you dangerous to distraction. Most of your stress comes from living mentally everywhere except where your feet are. The Stoics understood that power only exists in the present. Seneca warned against postponing life, against treating today as a rehearsal for tomorrow. When your attention fractures between regret and anticipation, you lose precision. But when your awareness is anchored here, something subtle happens. You notice patterns. You sense timing. You respond instead of react. Presence is not calmness for its own sake. It is situational awareness. It is what allows opportunity to be recognized when it appears quietly, not announced loudly. Life will resist you. That is not a flaw. That is the design. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, betrayal, war, and loss. Yet he wrote that the obstacle itself becomes the path. Resistance reveals weak thinking. Pressure exposes fragile discipline. If everything were easy, character would never form. The Stoics didn't ask for fewer obstacles. They train themselves to become stronger than circumstance. When you stop interpreting resistance as rejection, you stop wasting energy on resentment. And resentment is expensive. Most people live as emotional servants. Their mood rises and falls with approval. Their confidence depends on results. Their peace is rented from circumstances. Epictetus cut through this illusion mercilessly. Nothing external has authority over your inner world unless you grant it permission. When you stop outsourcing your self-worth, you stop negotiating with chaos. Inner authority does not make you cold. Makes you unshakable. The modern world worships movement. But movement without direction is just exhaustion. The Stoics understood restraint, the power of waiting without anxiety. Not every moment requires action. Not every impulse deserves obedience. Sometimes the strongest position is stillness. Strategic non-action is not avoidance. It is respect for timing. Gratitude to the Stoics was not optimism. It was realism without bitterness. Marcus Aurelius practiced gratitude even toward difficult people, because they trained patience, humility, and restraint. When you acknowledge what is already sufficient, you stop acting from lack. And lack distorts judgment. Your emotions are signals, not commands. Seneca warned that unchecked emotion enslaves the mind. To feel deeply is human. To be ruled by feeling is dangerous. Emotional sovereignty means you feel without surrendering control. This is how clarity survives pressure. The philosophy of enough is revolutionary in a culture built on endless dissatisfaction. The Stoics knew that craving more is not ambition. It is insecurity. When you feel whole, you act from strength. When you feel empty, you chase illusions. Authenticity is not self-expression for its own sake. It is alignment between action and nature. Marcus Aurelius warned against wasting life performing for others. When you betray your nature, resistance grows inside you. When you act honestly, friction dissolves. Finally, timing. The Stoics believed in a rational order, not blind fate, but unfolding logic beyond individual perspective. Impatience is often ignorance disguised as urgency. Trusting timing does not mean passivity. It means effort without panic. The Stoics did not chase miracles. They became disciplined enough to recognize opportunity when it arrived. This philosophy does not promise ease. Promises control over yourself. If this sharpened your thinking, subscribe. This channel is not about motivation. It is about mental mastery. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, and let clarity do the work panic never could.